Okay, again, here we are at West LA College's annual Business and Entrepreneurship Career Panel. We're so grateful you are all here. When you are wanting to speak, just go ahead and raise your hand, and myself or Matt will make sure that we call on you. Otherwise, we will be moderating and navigating us through this phenomenal conversation or dialogue. Again, students, if you have questions, please keep them in the chat for the moment. We'll save some time at the end for student questions. All right, so on that note, I would love to get started with introductions from all of our panelists. And in no particular order, I'm going to do that and share our slides so that everybody can kind of see who's here today. So let me just go ahead and click present on that as well. All right. Let's see, share screen, where did it go? Okay. So you should see these slides in just a moment, just navigating technology here. All right. So again, we have a wonderful group of panelists that are representing a wide range of career stories and roles and possibilities to just kind of give all of you an opportunity to hear about the wide range of the business and entrepreneurship and marketing landscape that exists out there, and to help you kind of see that the stories are so vastly different and the pathways are not always direct. There can be what we call a career squiggle, really, where you can kind of go here and then there, and you get to sort of see how that played out for all of these wonderful professionals who are here today. Okay, so for students, if you can scan the QR code, this is just how we're taking attendance today. It'd be great if you can put your student ID number in there. If you're having any issues with the QR code, go ahead and send a private direct message to Matt, and we will go ahead and take your name and student ID number from the chat. Okay. So let me go ahead and move us to our panelists. So meet our panelists. We're going to start with Professor Grayson, who works here at West LA College. We are so honored to have you here. And I'm going to just throw it over to you. The screen is up. Students can read a little bit about you, but we want to hear directly from you. And I'm going to pause the slides in between so that everybody can see every panelist's lovely face.
Okay, well, good morning or good afternoon. I don't know where students are checking in from, but hi, I am Chantal Grayson. And just a little bit about me. Real estate is my education and real estate are my passion. I started as a real estate broker in 2005 and then morphed. Like you said, there's a lot of squiggle and wiggling that happened there. How did I fall in love with real estate? I've always been an advocate for shelter and the unsheltered population and housing and knowing that if we have our basic needs, then a lot of things can happen once those things are solidified, whether it be, like I said, shelter, food. Those have always been kind of my underlying core that drives me to do a lot of the things that I do. Prior to being in real estate, I was in education, and I just saw the disparity with students that had no housing, that had no shelter, that had no food, and how it impacted their lives. So, long story short, I was in education. I had a marketing company at the time. I actually still have that marketing company. And I just said, how am I going to merge these two worlds? And I was doing a lot of volunteering for a lot of the nonprofits throughout Southern California. And I said, you know what? I can do this. I can help people get that first home. I can help them build wealth through real estate. And I firmly believe that. And so I decided to pivot. My first squiggle from education was to go into real estate. I taught at West prior to leaving and starting my own practice. And then I came back to West. Now I'm on tenured track for a full-time professor. Ooh, that's an experience in itself. And so long story short, it started off in education, and then it went from education to taking my marketing skills from my marketing company and going into real estate, and it just stuck. And so now I'm super excited to introduce students to our profession because I believe that this is something that you could have a long career in. Um, Age doesn't matter per se. You just have to be an advocate of the golden rule, which is do unto others as you want others to do unto you, and have good ethics and morals. And I think you could have a long career in real estate, whether it's your first home or whether you're building that wealth. This past 2 years, I actually pivoted again and I've become a developer. So I just finished developing my first two properties. So that lets you know that even if you don't want to go into real estate as a profession and you just want to take my classes because you want to do it for yourself or your friends or your family, that's fine. And you never know when you're going to end up because, like I said, I started with development, didn't know too much about development, but now I've two under my belt and I'm building nine more. So I'm excited about that.
Thank you so much, Professor Grayson. Really appreciate that start to our panel here today. So we're going to move on to our next panelist. And again, I'm going to leave the slide up just for a few so everyone can kind of take a read, but I'm going to let Derek Kelman go ahead and introduce yourself and just share a little bit about yourself.
Sure, great. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here today and kind of speak about my journey. So I work in the investment management industry. I've been doing that for about 14 years now. In my role, I would you would consider as like a financial advisor to nonprofits, so endowments and foundations. So similar to the work people do in financial advisors for people's personal wealth, I do that for institutions. My journey started actually in community college. I went to Moore Park Community College for 4 formative years. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Initially, thought I was going to do graphic design and build websites. And then I pivoted halfway through. Took another 2 years because I hadn't taken a single math class, and I realized I liked economics. So to transfer to UCSB, I had to do a full 4 years at community college. So and ended up being able to transfer to UCSB, get a degree in business economics, and was fortunate enough to kind of get my first job in finance, working for the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians. So kind of a unique opportunity. But over the last 14 years, I've been managing multi-asset portfolios on behalf of both individuals, but now more recently clients. In 2019, I would consider myself taking a year off. I'd been working really hard up in San Francisco, me and my wife. And so I took the year off and went to business school in upstate New York at Cornell. So it was great to kind of get out of California. Unfortunately, it got cut short with COVID, but it was still a great time to kind of be in New York. So, but I've been with Angeles over the last 5 years, and just really enjoy working with clients on a nonprofit space. This is quite different than what most people think of the investment management industry. Usually it's investment banking or being an equity analyst, but there's so many opportunities to work in finance, and so many opportunities. So happy to explore that later on.
Thank you so much, Derek, and so glad you're here as well. So we're going to go ahead and introduce or let him introduce himself. I want to welcome Kofi to our panel. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, hi, how are you? Let me wait
We're
for the video
good.
to come on. I'm glad to be here. And my name is Kofi Mensah, founder of Sago's Distro. We are a distribution technology company for music and film. We handle distribution rights management, copyright protection, and licensing part of a group that manages entrepreneurial ecosystems and business development in tech and general media entertainment. So started off going to college in London and basically had a keen interest in business, plus an affinity with media and entertainment. So after college, I worked as an accountant for a while, but I never gave up my interest in media. in the media and entertainment space whilst working as an accountant. And I kept juggling those two together. Then finally moved full time into media and entertainment, but with a technology and business management role and focus. After decades, about 15 years of doing that, I started my own distribution company and also part of other board member. I'm glad to be here and looking forward to share more of my background. Thank you.
Wonderful, and thank you so much for that. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and introduce our next panelist. And Diana, that would be you. So go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diana Sanchez, and I'm the Director of Special Programs for Community Relations at Los Angeles World Airports, which includes LAX, which everyone I'm sure has heard of LAX, and Van Nuys Airport, which is a general aviation airport, one of the busiest in the world. My career path, I've kind of always enjoyed volunteering and doing things with people. My father worked for the LA Times, and I loved the press room vibe. So I actually majored in journalism at Cal State Long Beach, and I went on to with an option emphasis in public relations, and I also have a master's in public policy. Los Angeles World Airports is actually a City of LA agency. I've been here for 26 years. Once you get into the city, it's very hard to leave because of the benefits, and the future retirement benefits are great. So, and I love what I do, community relations. We get to do a lot of things in the community. We have booths at various fairs. We work one-on-one with a lot of different people and different great organizations. What can you not like about that, right? I've been doing it, again, like I said, for 26 years, but even before joining the city, I worked for a marketing agency, and that was a lot of fun too, being creative, the ability to create marketing plans and try to get that return on investment was a challenge. But I find in community relations, I have that opportunity to be creative and work with a lot of different people.
Thank you so much, Diana. I'm so excited that you're here. Okay, so let's move on to our friends from LA Tech. So I'm going to go ahead and show the slides. We've got 2 bios and 2 photos in, again, no particular order, but go ahead and introduce yourself, Yvonne.
Cool, awesome. Thank you so much for the invitation and the warm welcome. Hello, everyone. My name is Ivan Salazar. I'm the Senior Manager of Innovation at latech.org. Just to kind of give everyone a quick little overview, latech.org is a nonprofit organization based in the LA community. Our goal here is really to support our young emerging talent to break into the tech space, or maybe even tech adjacent. It doesn't have to be big tech, right? But maybe looking at folks, to help them break into tech careers, right? In the healthcare world or the healthcare industry, and just different industries all around. So we are actually currently in the fall doing our business cohort in our Rising internship. We will have the next iteration fall of 2026. But we do have many more opportunities where we partner with employers to bring our community of talent with unique opportunities to work with our partner employers, and those could be sales development representatives, business development. We have some in the marketing outreach, social media, and the list goes on. And a lot of these are very crucial and fundamental, for folks trying to build their entrepreneurship, right? Which is why we're here in this panel today. And so we're really excited to come and showcase and bring these opportunities, and also show the West LA College, students, that there is, these different opportunities out there, because sometimes it's like, where do I even start? And we're here to help you kind of kick that off, right? So, um, with that being said, a little bit about myself. I've been in the nonprofit space for about, I want to say 3 years now. Before that, I was in the high school, worked in the high school setting, for about 4 to 5 years. And then that's where I wanted to transition, into the nonprofit space where I'm at now. And so we're really excited to kick off a bunch of great new initiatives, for 2026. Just keep an eye out on our social media outlets, because we'll be, doing a little showcase event with what the interns, have found, in our current business cohort, showing them to different tech industry professionals and getting a lot of great feedback, to elevate their career advancement. So, really excited to be here, and excited to share more, later now.
Thank you. And Lisbeth.
Yes, thank you all for welcoming us. My name is Lisbeth Morales. I'm the senior coordinator of talent program. So essentially, work really closely with Ivan and our talent team to implement and lead the life cycle of our rising internship programs, which we are currently having. Fall 2025, we have our technical and business, and then fostering the next generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs through our rising internship program. And that's a little bit about, I know Ivan took most of the spill about like what exactly LA Tech is. So yeah.
And that's absolutely okay. And you both just reminded me that if any of the panelists do have an opportunity, that you want to share with students that's attached to like a link or a social media page or a website, something like that, feel free to drop those in the chat at any point during today's event. Okay, so we are moving on to Liana, and we're so glad you're here because Liana is part of ViaCare, which is actually on our campus now. So we're thrilled about that.
Yes.
Let me just share my screen and you can go for it.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Leanna Falsetti, and I am the Director of Marketing for ViaCare. We are a community health center located primarily in East Los Angeles. And we also operate community health centers at 5 different community colleges across greater Los Angeles area. So we're newly at West LA College. We've been there virtually for 2 years, and we're happy to have our new physical health center on campus near the Basic Needs Center. So if you need anything, our team is there. But I am currently the Director of Marketing, but my career has sort of taken a interesting trajectory. I started in fashion after attending USC for an undergrad degree in philosophy. So I worked in fashion for 6 years. I then transitioned into public media and nonprofit world, where I worked in sponsorship for KCRW, a local NPR radio station here in Los Angeles. So exposure to marketing, partnerships, advertising, a lot of different things. And then it transitioned over into the healthcare sphere, where I've been working for the past 3 years. So I think my career speaks to, you don't have to take one set path. You don't have to know what you're doing. Just you have to work hard and have different skill sets and know how to apply those skills. And it's really, really transferable. So I can answer questions as any of you are concerned about wandering.
Absolutely, and we couldn't agree more here at the Career Center. You are speaking our language, very much so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Liana. Okay, Anya, are you able to unmute yourself and put your video? There you are.
Sorry. Hi, thanks for having me. Originally from New Jersey. I'm currently a junior at Carnegie Mellon University. I'm studying business and statistics. A lot of my interest, so I'm heading into the financial services space, and a lot of this interest comes from a lot of activism work I did earlier on. So I did a lot of environmental activism work, started to kind of realize that economic incentives are what's required to, I think, drive large scale change. So when I came to college, I started exploring this through a couple of clubs, really got interested in that, and So last summer, I completed an internship in risk management with Oaktree Capital, also based out of LA. And next summer, I'll be working in equity research with Evercore, an investment banking firm. Yeah, but overall, I'm really interested in the financial services space, and I'm glad to speak to all you guys about your young careers and early careers here.
Thank you for that, Anya. Appreciate you being here, and I'm so glad we got introduced through Casey at Earth Echo. So cool. Okay, so our next panelist is Kat, and I am going to have you just go ahead and unmute yourself so I can make sure I'm
Hi.
seeing you. There you are.
Hi. So my name is Kat Lartigue. I am a facilitator fellow with ESQ Apprentice. And I'm also studying to be a lawyer under our ED Rachel. So I'm officially enrolled in the State Bar of California's Law Office Study Program. And so that program allows you to basically sit in for the bar exam after 1 year of study. And then once you pass the bar exam, you continue to study under a supervising attorney for the next 4 years. And then you would be able to sit in for the actual bar exam without attending law school. So that's one of the things that we educate women of color on to help close the women's racial wealth gap. And so a little bit of like my personal background, I went to De Anza Community College. And at first I was in the paralegal program. And I went in with this mindset after graduating high school of like, oh, I'm going to be a prosecutor and I'm going to like put all the bad people away. And then the more that I spent time like away from home, I started to realize like, okay, there's reasons why people do the things that they do. And it's deeper than someone making a bad mistake and that making them a bad person. So the more I spoke with my academic counselor at De Anza, she was like, hey, I think you would really enjoy the sociology program. So I pivoted and I started to do sociology classes, and I got my AA in liberal arts. And then I continued on to go to San Jose State University, where I got my bachelor's in sociology with an emphasis in community change. While I was at San Jose State, I was actually doing like office management for a tech company, which I really enjoyed. However, it wasn't fulfilling. And so I started to do a lot of volunteer work in like a lot of nonprofit organizations local to here in the Bay Area. And then I started another nonprofit with my husband and his mentor. So we worked on like housing and things like that. And at the time that we had graduated, we had like 2 kids. And then like 5 years into starting raising the bar, I was like, okay, I've helped you with your own thing. Like now it's time for me to pivot. We had 2 more kids. And so after the 4th one, I was like, hey, I helped you. So now I'm going to go and chase like my dream again. And so I met Rachel, who's the ED of ESQ Apprentice. And then she was like, hey, I would be willing to be your supervising attorney. And so that's how I ended up here. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to be here today. So thank you for having me join.
Thank you for that, Kat. We look forward to hearing more about your story as we navigate into some of the other questions. So we do have 2 more introductions. Go ahead and introduce Dan, and then I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, awesome. Well, first of all, I'm so flattered to be included among what an inspiring lineup of people. So thank you for the invitation, Danielle. One thing that I have heard kind of from the group so far is just this creating your own path. And I can say with confidence I've created my own path, but primarily because it took a long time to figure out what I wanted to do. So I grew up right around these parts. I went to Venice High School. I went to college up in the Bay Area, and then decided that I was going to go to law school right out of college, which I did. And then after law school, I started working in downtown LA, just a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed attorney, but soon realized that wasn't for me. And I was interested in living and studying overseas, so I moved to Korea and worked as an attorney there, and then just left the practice of law completely because I was so interested in technology and the internet and e-commerce. So I ended up starting a company in Korea co-founding with a couple of friends. And soon after that, realized that I didn't want to do law anymore. I saw it as kind of writing a recipe for someone else to bake this beautiful cake, and decided I wanted to be the one that bakes the cake. And my mentor suggested I go back to business school at that point, but seeing I was a little bit far on in my career, I ended up going to a 1-year MBA program based in France. I did half in France, half in Singapore. And during that time, decided that what I really liked was working with people. And I became what's called a business development professional. So driving partnerships between companies and being able to engage with people and chart my own path. And I did that at Microsoft for several years and really fell into something called mergers and acquisitions and corporate development. And found out that my background in law and in finance and all things international really lent to that. And so I did what's called the strategy and the sourcing part of M&A at Microsoft. And I moved back to Korea to work for an entertainment media company, more as a general manager in online gaming, which I enjoyed. And then was recruited to Samsung Electronics to start a corporate development team, which is similar to M&A, but more finance and diligence and dealing with vendors. And then I ended up leaving Samsung after a couple years and moved to Seattle, where I worked primarily in strategy and development for an ad tech, MarTech company with a small little team. And then I joined another startup down in Los Angeles. This one was in what you would call IoT space primarily, so Internet of Things and homes and smart home. And then I went to join Honeywell, where my old boss was working and asked me to work there, and industrial connected industry and industrial IoT. And I'll try to wrap this up. I'm just realizing now how much stuff I did. And then started having kids and realized I loved soccer, which I played in college. So I started up some soccer camps, which I still do today, and really enjoy that. And then fell into what you would call the integration piece of M&A. And that's when, after companies have come together, figuring out how to make those companies really work well. And it requires knowledge of people and I would say operations and sales and infrastructure. And that's where I fell in love with my job. And that was, yeah, after decades, I realized what I really enjoyed doing. And so I worked at a company called Affirm in the fintech space. I did a little bit of that at Honeywell. And today I work for 3 companies that have recently come together in media and entertainment that do equipment rental, truck rental, production supplies, and I am responsible for integrations and operations of that business. So that's in a nutshell. I've co-founded, I've led teams, I've been an individual contributor in a wide variety of industries. But again, I'm very excited to be part of this panel today and very inspired by some of the other folks on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dan. And for you and all the panelists, you know what would be great is if you can go into your Zoom name and at the end of your name, like in the rename feature, can you just briefly either add your title or your employer, something so that as you're sharing, students are kind of remembering, oh, right, he's the one that said this or she's the one that said that. That would be great. So yeah, Kat just did it, for example. You can kind of see now it says like the employer or business title. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to Michael. Michael, let me go ahead and share my screen and you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Great, thank you very much for having me today. My name is Mike Dean, and currently I am a K-12 Strong Workforce Pathway Coordinator. And my job is to try to connect the high school CTE pathways to the amazing pathways that are going on at the community colleges. And before that, I was the founding principal of the Early College Academy at LA Trade Tech College. And I was there for like 25 years, working for a high school, but on the college campus. And Trade Tech has all the trade programs that the high schools eliminated, for 2 generations. So students that came to my school were able to get dual enrollment college classes and learn about all the other pathways that they maybe never thought that were out there because the high schools didn't have them anymore. But before that, when you're as old as me, you have a longer backstory. Um, but I moved from upstate New York. I wanted to get into comedy writing, and um, I ended up uh, finding out that, to do that, you have to do stand-up comedy. So I did a little bit of stand-up comedy, but you have to have a day job when you're trying to do the Hollywood thing. So I was in the car rental business. I was in there for about 10 years. And one day they let me go. And I don't know why or whatever, but I ended up taking some of my big clients to another company. And this company, the guy who was running it or owned it, didn't really know the business. And I kind of had this epiphany, well, why don't I start my own business? Because my biggest account that I brought to him was the LAPD, and they had 30 cars rented out to the undercover narcotics people. So, um, so I ended up calling a mechanic friend of mine. Another problem was that the cars we were renting were too new, and they weren't really good undercover cars. So I told the LAPD, look, I'll get you older cars that run well, and they'll be more of what you want. And so they ended up saying yes, and I ended up getting a contract with the LAPD. And at the same time, I was trying to become a teacher. So um, I'm losing my train of thought here. Um, so while I was becoming a teacher, um, the
It'll come back to you,
yeah,
and it'll probably come up in one of these questions too. So if there's anything
yeah,
else you want to share at the moment, go
yeah,
for it.
I'll share.
Otherwise,
I'll remember
okay.
it. All right, thank you, though.
No, of course. Okay, so last but definitely not least, we are going to have Patrick from our district office introduce himself. And Patrick, if you're able to unmute yourself, I'm going to reshare my screen.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for inviting me today. I'm excited to be with you. My name is Patrick Luce. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for the Los Angeles Community College District. I'm responsible for all aspects of cybersecurity, from technology to legal compliance to policy and practice. My career, I'm really old. I'll try to keep it short. I started off at community college, Shasta College, to be a civil engineer. And then I took a chemistry class and fell in love with that. So I wanted to be a chemist. So I did community college, and then I transferred to get a degree in chemistry from the University of New Mexico for the best reason that I could live at home and save money. Uh, and it was the most cost-effective university for me. I got a degree in chemistry, decided I wanted to go into pharmaceutical chemistry, transferred to Yale University, where I got a master's degree in organic chemistry, where I decided I didn't want to be a chemist anymore. And so I thought, what do I do? Well, I know chemistry, and I came to Los Angeles because the Los Angeles was really desperate for science teachers. And so if you had a degree in chemistry, they would pay you and give you all the courses to get your teaching credential for free. So I taught chemistry at Narbonne High School for several years. Um, After that, the internet was starting to be a thing, and it was starting to affect education. So over the next 10 years, I shifted from teaching to instructional technology to computer networking to network security to information security. I just sort of, as I learned new things about IT, I kept changing areas, and I ended up in one where somebody said you could make a lot of money not working for the school district. And so I changed to a private IT company where I did business development for 12 years, where I developed new lines of business and IT services focusing around information security. So then I got old and I wanted to go back into public service before I retired. So I became the Chief Information Security Officer of LACCD. So I'm responsible for security here. In doing that, one of my biggest interests, I've always been interested in education, and I became interested here in the pipeline for people that want to go directly from community college into the workforce. And when that's around IT and cybersecurity in particular, what is a path that we can help make that happen? So we run an information security intern program here at the district. And I work with the various colleges on the community college to workforce pathway for IT and information security. Thank you for having me.
We're so glad you're here, Patrick, and we can so easily see why you're joining this panel and our cybersecurity and tech panel in November because of your amazing career pathway yourself. Okay, we are going to now open it up to all panelists. The first question is going to be posted in the chat. You can just sort of raise your hand and we'll, call on whomever would like to share first. But the first question is, what advice would you give your younger self about how to best prepare for your career of choice, the career that you're in now, maybe one of the earlier careers you were talking about, any of that. And what advice can you offer to someone who might be starting his or own business or wanting to get into the field of business or marketing or entrepreneurship? Anyone want to start us off? Just go ahead and raise your hand and unmute yourself.
I'll get us started. So the best advice I would give my younger self is, no matter what business you want to get into, learn your ecosystem. Every single business, I believe, on this planet has an ecosystem. And if you can get familiar with that ecosystem, it's so much easier to navigate through that ecosystem. And then reverse engineer is my second thing that I would advise my students to do. Have a vision board of where you think you want to be. And even if you wind up not quite there, your vision board at least is going to set you on that pathway. So that reverse engineering, where do you think you want to end up and how can we get you there? And then know your ecosystem.
Thank you so much for that. Anyone else want to comment on this one? We'd love to hear from several of you on this one.
I'll expand that as well. I do like the vision board thing because if you see where you want to be in the end, then you can make the steps necessary to do that. And the best advice I'd give myself is to kind of move around more. I've loved the airport and I loved what I do so much that I didn't move around to different city agencies but it's great to have that experience in different places because everyone does things a little bit differently. I am happy that I have continued with like different organizations like the public relations, PRSA, public relations associations, as well as different airport associations, because meeting people, you can swap stories and learn from each other. And I think that's very important for growth and to make sure that you're just not tunneled and you don't get behind it with the times. Thank you.
Dan.
Yeah, I agree with both of those. I would say just find something that you're passionate about or a mission that resonates with you, because times will get tough as you look to make your way through that career path. And as long as you have something you really enjoy doing, you will be in a good spot. And it's okay if that mission or what you enjoy doing changes over time. That's all right. Just always try to follow that and you will be good in whatever career path you choose.
Just piggybacking off of what Dan said, if I could go back, I would tell myself to just go for things and stop being in my head so much. I think a lot of people tend to be perfectionists, and it's okay to make mistakes, right? A lot of people, I think that like even start businesses, a lot of it is learning. And then our favorite word on here has been pivot. If something goes wrong, you just pivot and it's okay. You'll figure it out. And even if you might think that you're super passionate about something, you might find that, hey, it's not even what I thought it would be. And I think that's okay, right? I feel like sometimes we think just because we create like a business plan and we go for it, we have to be stuck with it the rest of our lives. And I don't really believe that that's truly the case. But it's better to try something and find out than to not try at all.
Liana.
I'll go ahead and add in that so much of what your job experience will be learning on the job. Your resume and your experience sort of primes you for entry into that next step, but so much of your experience comes from actually learning on the job. So don't be afraid to take that next step. Don't be afraid to apply for a job that you feel like you're unqualified for. don't be afraid to try something new. So much experience comes from actually sitting there and doing the work.
1,000%. Derek.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think it's really important to find a mentor when you realize what's the industry you want to be in. It's hard to figure out what you want to do, and once you're in it, it's still hard to move up and progress. But if you can leverage somebody who's done it before, and you have a great relationship with, that makes things a lot easier, and that also opens doors for you along that journey. So not the easiest task to do to find a mentor, but if you can, there's programs and groups out there that help with mentorship. I highly recommend that. And for me personally, I stumbled upon somebody early on in my career, so I was very fortunate, and it's been instrumental in supporting me over the last few years.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Derek, because I could not agree with you more. And we do have some special programs here at the campus that do have mentorship components. So don't be afraid to ask your professors at the campus. And if any of you here, any of the panelists are interested in being a mentor, feel free to let us know here at the Career Center. We're happy to connect you to students and students on the call. If any of you are looking for a mentor, let us know, because it is a huge area of growth for the college. And like Derek said, it is what so many people benefit from, in just sort of getting a little bit more of that concrete guidance by somebody who's just a few steps ahead of you is all, right? Not really a whole lot of difference there between all of us, actually. Professor Grayson.
Back off of what he said, because first of all, go Gauchos, because he's a fellow alumni. West Los Angeles, we were granted approval from BREA, which is the Bureau of Real Estate appraisers for California. And we are starting and launching our first practicum November 17th. It's the only one in the United States at a community college or at a college. And I'm super excited to be part of that team, because it is going to replace the supervisory model. And so West LA hopefully will be a beacon where students can now go and get their appraisal licenses in residential, certified. We don't do the general yet, but you definitely can go from an AT, which is an appraisal trainee, into your now appraisal residential license and certified residential license. The main difference being the volume and the money that you can appraise up to. So I'm super excited about that, because it's 2 years in the making, but we are actually officially launching it November 17th. So if anybody wants to pivot again and become an appraiser, by all means, check out West.
Lovely. Oh my gosh, I love that. And Professor Grayson, make sure you're connecting with our work experience program, because then students can also get that transferable credit, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we're going to
Yeah.
launch the program with Simplicity. So that I've been speaking with
Hooray.
Andrea. I had a meeting with her all week. And yeah, we're super excited because, like I said, it's one of the only practicums in the United States. And gosh, it's just a blessing to have been on that team. It's 2 years in the making, but like I said, know that ecosystem and go for it, and don't be afraid to fail. Like I think it's Liana said, don't be afraid to fail, right? Nothing beats a failure but a try. So go west, go far, and I'm super excited. So if you guys know anybody that's looking for appraisal careers, we're going to be that place to go get that.
Or if you just want to know more about it, right? If students just have more questions about it, they can reach
Definitely.
out to you too. Yeah. Other panelists, who else wants to share a little bit? Patrick.
Probably the best advice that I have is, this could be related to cybersecurity, or it could be related to any business. The best courses that I took in my entire career were public speaking and technical writing, right? At least in the IT field, in the age of AI, people are going to look for a human connection. And the better your entrepreneurs, when I worked in business development, the people who did the best were the people who had solid interpersonal skills and great communication skills. You could be an expert at something, but you have to convince somebody that they need to pay you money instead of that other expert. And this comes with soft skills. And so while you're pursuing your passion or what you're good at, the best skill, whatever it is to be able to communicate it clearly and with sincerity, both in writing and orally.
Wonderful advice, Patrick. How about Diana? Diana, are you, I think you were there, maybe technical issues. Are you back? Anything you want to share with the students?
I agree with all of that. I think I shared earlier about moving, it's not being afraid to move around. Hold on, I'm getting some echo. Okay. So yeah, I think, and that goes with basically what your passion is, and it changes along the way and what you're doing. So I agree with what everyone said. It's and yes, failure does happen or challenges happen. But you just can't give up, and you can't be afraid to try something new.
And you're bringing up a really important point, though, Dana. What happens, or what did any of you do? This could be part of the advice you could give when you did have that feeling of giving up, or you did have that feeling of, God, I failed at that, and you started feeling maybe hard on yourself. How did you overcome those hurdles, Mike?
Yeah, well, like I said, I came out to do stand-up comedy, and earlier I had the comic's worst nightmare is forgetting your act, right? So, but if you go for your dream, you're never gonna understand what skills that you have that you never thought were applicable somewhere else, that they're going to be useful. So I ended up, like I said, I started doing stand-up, which I never thought I would. And then I ended up being a teacher. And I remember when I was a teacher one day, I said, wait a second, this is stand-up comedy, right? I've got, my audience of 30 people. I do five shows a day, So, but now I'm getting paid and I have benefits. But all that training and all the effort I put into doing the stand-up transferred beautifully into being a teacher.
Absolutely. What you're talking about is what we refer to in the Career Center world as transferable skills, right? And we know that transferable skills have always been a critical component to seeking work or making that career pivot. But now more than ever, right? I mean, the labor market is changing so fast that we even have labor market statisticians and economists that are trying to project where the careers are going and coming, and they've had a hard time the last year, especially in the climate world, which all of your careers impact and intersect with, right? There was just recently the Green Book of Careers that was printed, and that came sort of after the fact. Employers and business owners were saying what they needed, and then as you would review the labor market data and the job descriptions, they weren't there. Those positions weren't there. And so, they were coming to the colleges, like many of ours in this district, and saying, "Look, quickly create a program. We need a certificate. We need somebody trained up in this. We don't have enough people to do X, Y, or Z." And then they would say, "Oh, well, what do you call that?" It doesn't matter. Give it a name, right? So talk about transferable skills, right? You're not even relying at that point on the job title. You're relying on the skills, soft and hard, that you bring. And like Derek was saying, the hard skills are maybe what get you in the door, but it's the soft skills that are going to get you promoted. And in a lot of cases, it's even the networking and the mentorship and the internships and even those side steps, right? As many of you were all saying. Anyone else want to add to that or comment on that? I mean, what happens when you have that inner voice telling you, "Oh, I messed up"? What if you really did mess up, right? You just didn't know, made a choice to go one direction, and wasn't for you, and you already spent however many semesters or years studying that thing. Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I went to law school for 3 years and worked as an attorney for like 3 to 5, and it was a mistake. I went and decided I wanted to get a career in a certain industry, which I won't go into too much detail, and it was a huge mistake. I thought I wanted to be a manager of a certain type of people and prepared for that. Did that for years until I realized it was a huge mistake. So the good news is, like I said earlier, it was just things that I enjoyed at the time, things that I wanted to do. I wanted to work overseas. I wanted to work in fintech. I wanted to work in medical devices and startups, and I got to do those things. And I try to take all the lessons that I learned and the things I hated from what I did enjoy to craft a career that I would be happy with. And just very briefly, like in law, I really enjoyed being in a courtroom. So I realized I like doing presentations. I like trying to convince and compel people with credible data. When I was doing business development, I realized I like bringing sides together. I like to drive partnerships. When I was doing mediation, I realized I enjoyed conflict as well. And those were all things that helped me kind of carve and create a path to something I enjoy today.
Okay. How about our friends over at LA Tech? What kind of advice would you give any of our students? Things that you've lived in your own life, things that you're seeing in other maybe interns, people that have completed some of your academies?
Yeah, thank you, Danny. I was just about to step in as well, so thank you for that. A lot of the things that we have noticed, even as they go through our internship program as well, is really just also advocating to pretty much give it your all throughout that time, because you never know who is seeing you, right? Like who's observing. And so we typically on a year-round basis at times might be looking for potential coaches, right, that are there to support the interns throughout, their internship, like right now during the fall. And so Lisbeth and I will get together and be like, all right, great. So like who were some really strong interns from the previous cohorts that, what might be great candidates for this opportunity, right? And so it's something that we really came to highlight, to always, network, connect yourself with other folks, introduce yourself, put yourself out there, because you never know who's looking, right? And you never know who might, offer you an opportunity, a year from now or 2 years from now. And I think that's the area where I think a lot of our intern, not a lot, right? But like a small handful of them, like at the end are like, I wish I would have been a little bit more out there. Like I wish I would have, networked a lot, more when I was in the space with all these folks, right, from different industries or companies. And so it's something that, we also take as feedback to improve, right, and see how we can better prep for the next cohort. But that is something that we have came to see, and it's really impactful, all around. And we also equip our interns with a one-on-one mentor throughout the it's about 6 weeks that they get a mentor, if they're part of the Rising internship. But anyone else could also request, and we'll, put in our efforts to find a mentor for them. And so a lot of these folks do come from, different companies, different industries. And so really trying to give them that exposure to all those areas, resume support, to mock interviews, all that. It's just really important, for everyone to take full advantage of the program, and just their internship in general, right? Like if they intern at, I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking out loud, like at McDonald's corporate or whatever the company might be, just because I saw McDonald's right now. But it's really important for them to just go full on 110%. But I think that's been one of the biggest advice that we always give our interns, even at the start, to just, yeah, go full on, real wheels rolling, the moment they start.
Thank you for that, Ivan. Lisbeth, do you want to add anything?
I would just say the advice we would give our talent is just stepping outside their comfort zone, right? You won't know what you do like and what you don't like without putting yourself out there first. So that's one of the advice I would give.
Thank you for that.
I want to add to that if it's okay.
Of course.
The internship portion is very important. I will tell you, when I was in college, I got an internship and there wasn't even an opening. I just knew from a friend that the company was really busy. So I offered my free services to intern with them. They actually ended up paying me and offering me a job. And then I never had to look for a job because they hired me before I graduated. So they said, you know, we'll give you full-time work as soon as you graduate, and made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And so those internships really, it's the networking, because you meet other people in the industry, but they also get to know your skills, and you really just can't beat that. When everyone else in my class close to me was looking for jobs, I already had a job secured and was on my way.
I love that story so much, Diana. And we've had some students who have had those similar kinds of stories, and we're so proud of them, and we like to spotlight them all over our website and our newsletter, because it sounds almost too good to be true, right? But then you live it, and it's your story, so you know it happened. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Dan, is that a hand up?
All right, I would like
Say
to
goodbye. Have a
you.
good night.
Oh, I think two of you are speaking at once. Kofi, was that you?
Yes, I could proceed right now. So, little advice I would like to give students is border around goal setting. Setting goals is something that really helped me a lot. You know, setting personal goals and professional goals, being able to do short-term goals, long-term goals, medium-term goals, and breaking the short-term goals into monthly and weekly goals, and breaking weekly goals into daily goals. So I would do a Sunday plan day where I'm going to set the goals for the week, exactly what I want to accomplish for that week. And when it's Wednesday, I do a recap. Um, it's not about perfection; it's about progression. So even if on Wednesday you find yourself not halfway through the goals that you want to accomplish for the week, you can actually reset and pick it back right where you left off. So once you cultivate the habit of setting goals, then you find yourself an accountability partner or accountability buddy that is going to hold you accountable, and you're going to hold them accountable, whether they actually follow the path to accomplishing the goals that they set for themselves, and they're going to keep you accountable too. And having that accountability partner helps, make sure that you're on track, to accomplishing your goals. And if you slip off, you have somebody that's gonna. So, few key principles for setting goals that you want to. Then you want to be able to measure the goals, quantify it in numbers, right? What exactly you want to accomplish within that time period, quantify it in numbers. And you want to reach high, but you want it to be attainable, not too far fetched, so you don't burn yourself out. At the same time, you want to challenge yourself and push yourself to go that extra mile, so you don't end up setting mediocre goals. So attainable goals, not too far fetched, so you don't burn yourself out. At the same time, you want to push yourself and challenge yourself to go an extra mile. And once you keep doing that, even if it's 1% better, extra mile every day, at the end of the 100 days, you realize you have 100% better or 100% accomplishments. So goal setting is pretty key.
That is phenomenal advice. I am already getting all these wonderful ideas of ways in which we can continue to partner with all of you panelists, because that would be a great workshop for us to offer students, a goal setting workshop. And if any of you panelists would be interested in some kind of specialized workshop, let us know. We host workshops every semester, multiple a semester, and the usual ones, but sometimes there's a specialty area that one of you has, and we can co-create something together. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, so for our next question, several of you have been talking about skills, the skills you had, the skills you needed, the skills you didn't have, right? The skills that the internship or the employer was looking for. Can you each speak a little bit to the recommendations of what you think the most important skills would be right now in the work you're doing? And that can be hard skills, but also the soft skills. What do you think has been some of your biggest assets for yourself in what you do? Do we have a volunteer to speak to skills? Anya.
Yeah, I think in at least the internships I've done so far, I know I'm not too far ahead in my professional journey yet, but I think that one of the best soft skills you can have is knowing how to carry a conversation with someone, knowing how to communicate with them, both in a professional setting, but also being able to have that sort of daily sort of chat where it's not just about the weather, but you're also able to carry a conversation to ask them some more personal questions, just because it does create that sort of connection with someone and it makes them more likely to remember you. It's super important to have. It makes you more personable. People want to be with people that are likable. People want to work with people that they enjoy speaking to. And I think being able to carry conversation is a great hallmark of that. Um, and beyond, I think like it goes back to the networking that we talked about earlier, like talk to people about not only their careers, but how they got there, ask people about their stories. Um, and it'll not only give you advice, but also like great friends and strong mentorship and a strong network that way.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Anya. Ivan?
Yeah, as we also work very closely with our partner employers, we also get feedback, from them, ways that we could also incorporate more workshops throughout the year, kind of like very similar to you, Danielle. And so even in our current Rising internship, as folks do have to go through this mock interview part of their deliverables, and so one of the big pieces is, very similar to what's mentioned earlier of really just communicating, being able to really articulate, right, the projects that you have completed in the past. What were those challenges and successes that you have had in, any previous experience. And so we sometimes come to find that folks might have a tough time being able to really kind of show kind of like that storytelling of their project and how they came to that solution. We emphasize the STAR method throughout as well throughout our internship, and so it's really just crucial. And I can't remember the acronym off the top of my head, but it's the STAR method. And so being able to walk us through, the very beginning from identifying the problem to what steps they took to the conclusion and how they resolved, that. And so that is something that we really want to also push for, being able to communicate and also boost their interviewing skills, because it's a skill, right? Being able to really articulate everything that's being shown, and being able to give, right, the hiring manager, right, a really vivid story of like who you are, because you really do only have about, if it's over the phone, maybe 2 minutes or 30 seconds to really impress them, and also just throughout that process. So that's something that we have really came to find, that improving those soft skills of communication, articulation, storytelling as well throughout that, really go a long way to securing, that internship, or that first job that individuals might have access to. So yeah, there you go. Thank you so much. Yeah, situation, task, action, result. Exactly. Thank you for that.
Anyone else like to share on that? Hard skills or soft skills that you find are really your go-to right now in your career, like you couldn't do what you do without them. Mike.
Yeah, I think that's really important to be able to think outside of the box, especially when you're dealing with big organizations like school districts and community colleges, especially the way technology and other things in life are changing so rapidly. I think it's important to let the young people know that they have a lot of skills that are in demand right now from the older generation. You know, even small businesses that, don't know how to market themselves on social media. You could walk in there and say, hey, I know how to do this, and it's really the way the world is going. And, those skills are very important.
Professor Grayson.
Just being on the front line, I have learned that despite me, I have my degree and I've been in the business for 3 decades now, right? Um, But sometimes when my students see me, they think I'm a lot younger than I am, so they feel safe in communicating with me. And I think that sometimes we have to reinforce to them that they're in a safe space. Because when you have a student writing you saying that they're a mother of three and they're living in their car and they just don't know where they're going to get the book money or get a computer or things like that, it takes you out of your element. It reminds you that there's this human factor between all of us. And, we're not getting the dog ate my homework now. We're getting the, oh my God, I have kids, I have a family, I'm young, and I need to understand that the skills that I do have, what can I do with them? So sometimes to me, it's taking a step back and meeting and listening to my students and giving them an opportunity. And I don't know everything, but I do know that I have resources at West. I do know that I have a community at West that will support my students in what they're. My last student that shared her plight with me broke my heart because she was so prideful that she wouldn't go to our pantry and ask for food. And I'm like, you're living in a car. You're trying to figure out what the bus route is so that you stay on the bus while it's active. And then when the buses stop, you now are in the park. So I think we need to, as business professionals, remember that we didn't always start as a business professional. We all had a humble beginning where we were trying to navigate where we're going, and that we may know something that our students or our younger people or our interns may be afraid to ask because they see you as this, oh my God, you're leveled up, you're degreed up, you're this. But at some point we have to say, hey, you know what? This is my story. This is where I started. I wasn't always a broker. I wasn't always an educator, and then listen. A lot of, I think, a skill that's important is, yes, it's great to be able to communicate and do your 15-second, elevator pitch, but it's also great to be able to be quiet and listen to what the other person in front of you is communicating, and realizing that they may not ever ask you for help, but they need help, and being able to offer that, because Wes has a lot of amazing things for students that are going through life, right? So I was one of those like, oh no, your assignment has to be, due on Thursday, cut on Sunday. And then after the fires, I was like, forget it. End of the semester is here. And then, but also still remind them that we're in real estate. So if my students miss a deadline in the real world, they might have cost their clients the house. They might have cost their clients hundreds of thousands of dollars, deposits. So I let them know that yes, they're in that training phase, but that the habits that they set up have detrimental effects if they don't learn how to be on time, if they don't learn how to cross their T's and dot their I's. Because real estate isn't one of those industries that you can play around with. If that appraisal report is due in 17 days, it needs to be in 17 days. If you put it in 17 days in 1 hour, guess what? You just cost somebody 100 grand in their deposit. So being firm, but also having the compassion to know that all of our students are going through life and they're not just students anymore. Like back when I was a student, for some reason, maybe because we didn't have social media like that, I was a student. I was a kid when I was supposed to be a kid. Now they're not only a kid, but they're seeing what's going on all around the world and they're leveling up really fast. So it's important for me to reiterate to them, like, hey, you know what? I know what you see on social media, but you're still a kid, right? You still get to sample the water and, go through that. So
Exactly.
I would say one of those soft skills, hard skills is learning how to listen, but also being firm with them, almost like a parent, if I could say so, let them know that your industry is a serious industry, but you're in school to learn how to navigate that industry.
And yeah, the points you're making are so important though, Professor Grayson, because it sounds like part of what you're saying, it's super effective in your classroom and in a college setting. But from what I'm hearing from all the panelists, it sounds like that kind of listening could also be really effective on an internship or with a mentor or with a mentee as well, right? Because when we're seeking that support, we may not ask for it. And that's why we put on events like these career panels, because, it's really hard to know what you're even asking or what you don't know. Like, how do you ask a question when you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
We've all been there. And so the more that we can sort of break down those barriers and, create a sense of like community around that, the better chance that, we have. And that does come from a lot of listening, as you
Yeah, and
said.
sometimes we have to be the ones to stop the feed. Sometimes I have to be the one to say, okay, let's get off the platform. Let's take a little break and let's figure out what's going on in your life, because what might be going on with another student's life has nothing to do with yours. So you need to mind your business, right? Your business right now is you have two kids, you're in a car. We need to figure out how to stop for a second so you can breathe and come up with a good solution versus a potentially life-changing bad solution, right? So I just, say to all of our panelists, thank you so much for being here, because you're showing our students that it's never a direct path, right? There's no one way to do
Right.
anything. And if you, like I said, just quiet your spirit, you could figure that out.
That's right. I'm getting drawn to you for some reason, Kat. I feel like there's like so much here in your story to chime into kind of what Professor Grayson is saying. Is there anything you're wanting to add?
I think she touched base on like a lot of the similar things, and it goes back to like when I was, you know, when I was at Dianza, and then just hearing like stories, or I think what I got out of this too is I feel like sometimes the reason why we also tend to think that we're fit for a certain career path and we don't really acknowledge it until we're older also has a lot to do with like our family's traditions, right? Like I came, my parents had immigrated here from the Philippines. And so for me growing up, right, my my outlook on like, hey, I want to be a lawyer was, I think for them it was like more accepting because hey, lawyers make really good money, but not really like looking at it from like a sociological perspective where there's like a lot of different factors and a lot of different roadblocks that a lot of us have. Um, and so kind of just like she said, taking a step back to kind of analyze and look at like everyone's situations, um, because we're not all on the same path. And sometimes we might have overcome something that someone else is currently going through. So just being there, having the soft skills of like being able to actively listen, right? And then also just being able to help. But then, like she said, right, there's always like a consequence too. So as long as people are aware of the consequence. I'm also like a really big believer in the right place at the right time. So maybe they do like the real estate courses and then they realize, hey, right now in this certain space in my life, I can't commit to it, but it's something that they can also go back to when the time is right and they're ready. Um, so yeah, that's my perspective on
That
that.
is such an important perspective, Kat. So you're sort of speaking to this idea that we refer to in the Career Center world as like having parallel careers. So you could have something that you're working on that's maybe a longer term career, and maybe you're, in an internship for it, but maybe there was like another career path that you were also pursuing that you also like, that you kind of can work at and actually like have a salary in, or, make some money now to pay bills now, right? So both can be true. We can have multiple interests and they might not all get fulfilled by the one career, right? That was sort of like the way that we might have thought about things in the past, but it might be the thing you're doing now, the thing that you already got trained for, and the thing you're working towards, and they could be parallel, like unrelated. Yeah. So let's sort of talk a little bit about what are some of the stepping stone jobs? Like we're hearing from a lot of you kind of like where you're at now, but in terms of like where you started and the various steps along the way, what are some of the entry points to get into this work, right? Sometimes students are like loving what they're studying, but they're just not sure, well, what do I apply for next? And like, what is that job even called? And where would I even find it? What kind of organizations would I be looking for? Who'd like to share on that first? How about you, Derek? I was thinking that you have an interesting path, and a lot of times, you know, the students don't necessarily understand. Sometimes even here at the Career Center, we're not exactly sure, like, how do people get into a firm like yours?
Well, my firm is pretty unique. There's not many of our firms out there who partner and manage the assets for endowments and foundations. So we're referred to as an OCIO, an outsourced chief investment officer. There's maybe maybe 20, 30 dedicated ones of them. But the easiest path I would get into the world of finance is working in the broader financial services industry, is potentially joining a large bank. It could be like a commercial bank like JP Morgan that has both the investment side, the commercial, the retail. You've got opportunities to join kind of more the specific investment bank like Anya joined, like Evercore, and huge achievement, and congratulations, Anya, on getting there. That's not an easy task. That is a much more competitive route to go. So there's a lot of opportunities, but the banking industry, I think, generally speaking, is the most prevalent in the financial services jobs. From there, you really have, you know, the world at your sights. From there, you can join many other firms within the investment management industry. But I think banking is generally probably the most widely available and for the financial industry, financial services industry.
Thank you for that, Derek. And Anya, is there anything you would want to add?
Yeah, I think as Derek mentioned, like working in banking as a whole is a really common pathway that a lot of people take just because it opens up a lot of opportunities for you to look at a bunch of specific sectors and work with a lot of different people. But also, I think like business operations roles are really helpful if because that kind of lets you take a step into almost any sort of industry. Like if you're interested in if you're interested in working for a tech company, but you're not sure if you have that sort of CS knowledge or background, you can still work there as in their business analyst operations side. Supply chain is something that a lot of people use, like it's used across in healthcare. Um, and I have a friend that worked in supply chain at HelloFresh, which was like the startup that gives ingredients, and she loved her work there. I think broader sort of roles like that give you the opportunity to explore a lot. And then beyond that, I think also, um, I believe Diana mentioned this before she left, but reaching out, like cold reaching out to smaller startups or smaller firms, saying, I can provide my services to you, just to gain that sort of experience is also a great stepping stone just to see what you like and what you're interested in.
Yes, it was Anya. Excuse me, Anya. It was Diana, and you're absolutely right. It's oh, doesn't this one go undervalued somehow? But to volunteer, and it doesn't have to be a lot of hours. It could be one time. It could be on repeat. But to volunteer opens doors. Every time I talk to somebody who has volunteered in some way, there's some new connection they made or some new skill they developed, like from literally one shift. And also, and I don't know if any of you are available for this, or maybe you have colleagues who are, but I'm also a big fan of job shadowing. Like if a student can have an opportunity to shadow somebody who's doing a job that they might be interested in, and they could shadow for one shift or a couple hours. That's also incredibly valuable because sometimes it's hard to imagine what something is if we've never seen it, done it, observed it, right? So just to be kind of on a work site with someone and kind of seeing what they do on a day-to-day basis. Kat?
So when I was in high school, I did like a lot of volunteering. And I think a lot of us think like when we volunteer, it's like usually like just like, hey, me and my friends went to like this pantry, we were sorting food out. Um, the older that I got, I started shadowing like CEOs of nonprofits where I would come in, I'm like, hey, you guys do grant writing. Let me come in and let me support you in grant writing. Hey, you're the CEO, you're the CFO. Let me come in and shadow you. And so they had me sign a lot of NDAs, but I learned a lot just by doing that. And so putting yourself out there and the networking is so huge. I think when we're younger, we don't really take advantage of that, but networking can take you like really far. Even if it's just volunteering, you can get a lot out of it.
And would you mind, Kat, just in case there's any students who don't know what an NDA is, would you mind briefly just defining?
Oh, it's just like a non-disclosure agreement. So I would just, when I'm doing like grant writing and things like that, there's just certain things that are sensitive and maybe some programs that they want to expand, but they haven't done so yet. And so I would just come in, sign those documents and just not talk about it. I would just keep it broad, but I feel like that's also why doing a legal apprenticeship works out for me, is because one of my things is we're just not supposed to talk about things. So yeah, it goes back to transferable skills.
Absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes there's those acronyms too, right? Where now that you've defined that, as students like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. I know what that is. Maybe I just forgot that's what it was called, right? And so sometimes when we're in a more casual circumstance, like a volunteering situation or a job shadow, it can feel a little more comfortable to kind of like raise your hand and go, oh, you know what? Can you pause? I'm not sure what that was. What did you say? Can you define that for me? Because it can feel very intimidating, right? Sort of like several of you have said, to kind of know where you're at and what to say or not say, you know, what's kind of appropriate or not. We do want to open it up to students, and I just want to see if any students have any questions. We really only have time for probably one or two, but if there are any questions, please go ahead and raise your hand or write it in the chat. And if there's no questions from students, do any panelists have one final comment or piece of advice, maybe something you want to build upon that you said earlier, or something you heard one of your fellow panelists share that you wanted to comment on? Any final words before we wrap up and say our goodbyes? Mike.
Yeah, I put some resources in the chat. Some of them are labor market reports on like entrepreneurship, different entrepreneurship pathways that they could take. There's another one called LA Career Finder, where they can discover all the different pathways that are happening at all the 19 community colleges in LA. And also there's one that tracks all the certificate programs that are in the LACCD.
Thank you for that, Mike. Yeah, we grabbed all those links so that we can also reshare and reshare and reshare on our end from the Career Center. So appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
Patrick, and then Derek.
I wanted to follow up on the last topic about volunteering and shadowing. One important aspect is to be bold, because a lot of times they're available for the taking, and people don't think, so, well, I don't know who to ask, or I don't know where to go. You can go anywhere to ask to shadow somebody at their job. My son's first internship was with the father of somebody he went to Boy Scouts with. We said, I'm interested in that. Can I come in and see your office? For IT, for every aspect of IT, no matter what the specialty is, there are user groups that meet once a month in person for dinner to have a speaker and to talk to other people that are in the same industry. A college student showing up to those is extremely rare. Go there, introduce yourself to everybody, and ask. There's the biggest thing is to ask and to be bold, and also for sales and business development to get comfortable with rejection. That's
Incredible advice, Patrick. Thank you.
I just wanted to add, we didn't really talk about this, but AI, I think, is really transformative. It's especially transformative within the financial services industry. So anybody young coming into this industry needs to know how to use AI, not only to help you write things, but be able to do analytical research, deep research, use it for Excel financial modeling. If you can come in with those skills, you'll be very valuable. That helps the team be more productive, and it allows you to be just kind of puts you on the top. So understand how to use AI more so than just helping write something, but doing analytical and deep research.
Absolutely. And that was like a perfect segue, Derek. It's almost like I asked you to do that. We're having our Future of Tech career panel. So a very similar event as this. in November on the 6th. I'm going to put the Zoom link in the chat for students who want to register for that. We will be talking very much about everything IT, AI, cybersecurity. You'll have the opportunity to hear from Patrick again from our district here, and then other professionals and employers from the community that are in those various careers as well. We're also going to have LA Tech there. So we're really trying to create a lot of these opportunities, these career panels, for exactly this purpose, right? Everything you heard from the panelists today was, so important. But I think one of the messages that you kept hearing was, it's okay to not know, right? The question isn't like answer isn't to know everything. The answer is to know who to ask and what questions to maybe ask, right? And so I'm hoping that you gathered a lot of that today. And on behalf of the entire Career Center team here, I just want to thank all of the panelists for your time and your expertise and your vulnerability, your openness and sharing of your own story with our students, because it's just completely incredible, and it's so personal and so important for our students to have access to you, and at the moment through us. So thank you all so much, and we hope to see you and partner again real soon.
Thank
Thank you, students. See you at another event soon.
Thank you.